Alrighty guys, I'm going to make the attempt to be a little bit more direct in how I start my videos. And so here's the attempt right here. So we're going to get right into it. I'm going to introduce this vehicle first, and then I will explain what we're doing and why I'm in front of this vehicle. So with no further delay, let's just go ahead and get to it. I'm sorry, Mr. Unknown. This is a 2002? 2003 S430. The vehicle has been sitting for quite some time. How long?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. Because daughter hit a curb, and we've got some busted suspension underneath. So that's the original problem that had this car parked. There are several other vehicles in this household, and it is not critical, or it was not critical at the time. And so now son needs to get rolling and be a little bit more independent, and we need to try to get this vehicle on the road. So in me doing some assessing, the car starts just fine. Of course, it'll probably need a new battery, but when the battery is charged, it starts just fine. It idles just fine. But what I noticed, and when I really started listening to the engine, was this concerning sort of ticking sound. And I cannot readily identify whether it's, a spun bearing. It's certainly not a broken connecting rod, because it's not knocking. It's just a ticking. It's not injector sounds, and it's not electronic distributor sound. So when I start this car, hopefully it will start on the first click. We should be able to hear. And if you recall my purpose is with the intent to teach someone. Okay, so again, to our more experienced DIYers or more confident DIYers, I'm not talking to you. Okay, if you're going to comment, please, again, I just ask that you comment with the intent of helping someone that may have the same issue. So let me also explain. This is a process. So I wanted to put a little bit of time and cash into exploring what we can do to possibly get this engine a little bit more quiet, because from my perspective, I was going down the road, well, if the engine is possibly on its way out, then there's no point of putting money into the rest of the car. However, my owner, who's off camera, has told me, you know what, let's run this thing into the ground. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what we do to this car. I think anything that we do is just it's certainly not going to hurt. Okay, and so he is perfectly fine with giving me the opportunity to at least see if we can quiet this engine down, so that when son is out on the road, or however this car is used, that there's at least a little relative confidence that we still got a lot of life in this car. And I think we do, but he is giving me the opportunity to indulge my OCD as a car guy. So let's explain what we're doing. What we're doing essentially equates to an oil change, but it's not about the oil change. It's about a process, and again, me exploring the opportunity of what I can do to this vehicle based on what's available in the market to help this car survive as long as it possibly can. So I'll bring you over. And what we're doing is we're doing an engine flush, or a cleaning, if you will. And what do I mean by cleaning? I need to bring you over here. And part of my assessing what may be potentially what may potentially be going on in the engine itself is when I looked into where you pour your oil in, and I've got some sludge, or at least the appearance of sludge, on the very top of this valve cover gasket. So I'm making a safe assumption, okay, that if we've got sludge on top, then we've probably got some sludge in the engine. Okay, And why am I making that assessment? Because the car's been sitting for a year and a half ish or so, 18 months plus, in pulling the dipstick, just in case I get a little potential, comment from, again, our more experienced guys. We can see we don't have any sort of indicator that we have water or coolant in our system, and we should not, okay, because we didn't have any issues with coolant. So I'm confident that we don't have any blown head gaskets or anything like that. But again, let's get to the process of what we're doing. The process of what we're doing is using this product. Do I have it in the frame? It's a BG engine cleaner, and it's a 3-part process. It starts with the cleaner itself, and just so that you understand, I went into this project knowing that I was not using the complete recommended fluid. What's the word I'm looking for? The recommended amount of fluid. This is a 6-quart bottle, yet this engine takes about 8.5 quarts of oil. This kit is about $320. It was $344 shipped to get it out of the way. BG is not sponsoring me. I just live by their product. I got turned on to BG products probably about 15 or 16 years ago. And I've been using it ever since where I could afford it. Okay. But I lost my train of thought. Bear with me, guys. This is a 6-quart bottle, 8.5 quart system. I'm not putting close to $800 ish or so into fluids when we've got suspension work to do, we've got brakes and rotors, we've got brake fluid, we got to get this car cleaned up, and who knows whatever else. We want to, again, we don't want to put so much money into this car, because I guarantee you we're probably still going to spend at least, I don't know, maybe $1,500 roughly. But if we were to also put some sort of labor rate to our time, which we should, because our time is valuable, don't ever think that it's not, but we're DIYers, so we don't really think about the time that we spend as it relates to a service professional. But let's just equate average rate. Let's do $100 an hour. 3 hours. Well, this video might run about 3 hours, but it may take me about 2 hours, because this engine has to run for at least 30 minutes. So let's just say 3 hours for this process, 3 hours for suspension, a couple of hours on brakes and rotors. Well, $100, we're probably, $1,500, $2,000 in labor just on our own. We go to a service professional or a dealership, average labor rate, you're looking at least $150 an hour. Okay, so the money that we're spending on parts, the amount of time and the monetary value we could put towards our time, I can guarantee you that I can go find another S500, S430. I can go find another one for $4,000 or $5,000. So, but again, just trying to give you the thought process. Per my owner, let's run this thing into the ground, and that's what we're going to do. But I don't think we're going to run it into the ground. So we need to run the cleaner through first. It has to spend about 35-40 minutes. I don't know if I necessarily want to go that long, because I don't want to push this engine. So I'll just kind of make the determination, but this car will run for at least 25 minutes at about 2,000 to 2,500 RPM, although BG recommends 3,000. Okay, then we have to drain the cleaner. Then we've got to change the oil filter, put a new oil filter in. Then we've got to put the rinse solution in. Again, this will get diluted so that we have the correct amount. I've got basically some sacrificial oil that I can use to correct the fluid level. And then we'll run this through. Again, 2,500, about 25 minutes, flush this out, and then we'll be ready to put the oil in. So the reason I say that, yes, we are doing an oil change, but it's not about the oil change. It's about this process to hopefully give some peace of mind to want to go on to the next project, which is suspension, brakes, getting this car cleaned over, and you know, hopefully giving keys to Sonny Boy and seeing the smile on his face when he can drive and have some more freedom. So what I'll do is I will go underneath the vehicle one time to show where the drain plug is. Again, we're talking to our newbies, our guys that don't necessarily have the confidence, but they have the desire, okay? So I'll go underneath, I'll show where the drain plug is, I'll film, you know, the oil come out, and then everything after that's the same thing. So I don't need to go back and forth underneath and so forth. Plus I'm one-handed, and you guys know I don't like to do one-handed and try to turn a wrench. So when I come back, I will have the car started. Hopefully we can all hear the problem or the concern that I've identified, and of course we'll get the oil that's in the car warmed up so that it comes out a little bit faster. So I'll take a break, and when I come back, hopefully this car should be started. Alrighty, so invariably, I guess as most issues go, the second you get to your service technician or your dealership, then your problem goes away. But to my point, the car started right up. Okay, there's no check engine light or anything like that. But my culprit has seemed to want to have masked itself, and so I don't know if I can position the camera to help identify this noise that I was hearing. I'm being silent for a reason. Okay, so the vehicle wants to make me out to be a fool, and that's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that, because it does not change the fact that what I have identified from our oil filler location, that we still have sludge in this engine. And even though I can't help, or I can't identify the noise that I was hunting and after, which is why I think I was really recording this video, it's no problem. We're still going to flush this engine out, okay? So, as a byproduct, yes, we're talking about an oil change. So, with any oil change, where I start is the oil filter, okay? If you're having problems, or if you've identified that you cannot get your oil filter off to begin with, then your oil change means nothing, all right? So what am I saying? I say you start with your oil filter. If you have this type of oil filter, loosen the cap. I've already done so. It loosened with no issues. If you have the metal spin-on type of canister, then loosen that. Just make sure that you can get it off. What you don't want is to drain the oil only to find out as a last minute, or as part of your process, you go and change your oil filter last, and then you're having issues getting your filter off. Or you found that, oh wow, this filter and my tool, you know, it's in a tight space, so I'm fighting, and then you get frustrated and oh well, it's just the filter, I'll just walk away from it. No, you need a clean filter, okay? So start with your oil filter first. Again, I've already loosened this cap, and they do make a cap, it's called an oil wrench, that fits perfectly over this cap, and you can use that. In my instance, I have this type of wrench. It goes on like so, and then would you give me the honors, sir? My behind the scenes cameraman will give me an extra hand. And you see, pull out all the tension, the rubber straps down on it, and then you can turn it. All right, so we're not obviously going to remove that now because the engine is running. A good process in an oil change is to start the engine. You can just let it run for 4 or 5 minutes, just to let the oil warm up so that it becomes a little bit more fluid and it flows out more. You'll get more oil out. And as I promised, I will go underneath. I'll show you where the drain plug is. Okay, I can get it because I got a better angle down here. I appreciate it. So you can see I already have my catch pan already positioned, and then the drain plug is right there. And to me, it looks like, I don't know, maybe a 10 or a 12. And so again, this will probably be the last time I come underneath the car, because as part of the process of draining or cleaning this engine, so to speak, it's a 3-part process: the cleaning, the rinsing, and then the actual fluid fill. So I'm going to turn the engine off. The oil will drain down to the pan, let it sit for a while. Then obviously you have some warm or hot oil, so please be careful, okay, when you go and pull that drain plug. Don't go burning yourself. Safety first. We let the oil warm up, so you can let the car sit for 10 minutes or so. It's not going to go completely cool again, if that makes any sense. We'll shut the car down, and then I'll get myself staged. I will go ahead and pull the filter, and I'll at least show you putting a new filter on, just so you can see that. And maybe I'll just keep the camera rolling, and we'll just go from there. All right, we'll be back shortly. Okay, we're back, actually. I want you to listen very carefully, okay? Pay attention to the serpentine belt. There is noise coming from there, okay? It's spinning accessories. So, I am not talking about that noise. I'll shut up for a second, let you focus on it. All right, in the background, you should hear something going, knock, 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 knock. Listen. You should be able to hear that. That's what I'm talking about. That's what had me concerned. Again, is it knock-like? Yeah, but knock-like to the point of a broken connector rod? Not so much. On top of which, I think if we had a broken connector rod, we'd probably see somewhat of a noticeable shaking of the engine, because that particular cylinder is certainly not firing correctly, right? And so hopefully this flush will at least kind of quiet that down, or maybe just eliminate it. Okay, and that's the ultimate goal, or the ultimate wish, and that's what we're chasing. So let's see what BG does for this. Alrighty, my friends. So I have my, so to speak, my not that STP is crappy, but for the sake of this process, okay, I've got my sacrificial, I won't call them crappy, I'll call our sacrificial filters, okay, and you see I've got the oil cap spun off, okay, so actually I'll save it for the actual when we put the oil in, but there's an O-ring on this cap, okay, and it's just a good process to change these things, and you'll see that your filters will generally come with an O-ring, but then also let's save that for the oil change. Let's stick with the process. That's one of the things I'm working on, staying in the moment. I don't have gloves. Wear gloves, okay? This spins on, and then it just comes out of this little shaft. And since I can't, my OCD, right? But those extra rings, they're for this, okay? And you would replace those as well, all right? Okay, that's good. So, yeah, go ahead and empty that bag, please, sir. And if you're watching the GLK video or have watched it, you notice that I've made a comment that I work better when somebody else is at least able to help me out. I can focus on my thought process of, again, making the attempt to try to teach, or making the attempt to try to make what may seem very technical and complicated simple, okay? So we put our sacrificial filter on, we throw that back in the housing, and I'm just going to go to this thing. It's just seated down, hand tight, and that's it. We're not driving this vehicle. It's just going to idle, okay? We have our filter on. And my helping hand is going to go grab me something to wipe my hands off, and I appreciate it. I'm going to be posting another video on an S550, a 2016 S550, where we did spark plugs, ignition coils, oil, air intake tubes, and that vehicle also belongs to the same owner. And so that's who's behind. That's the man who is unseen. Okay, so we need to grab probably, like I said, a 10 or a 12. I'll go underneath and I will pull that drain, let the oil flow out. Then we will introduce our cleaner, start the engine up, get it to, like I said, that 25-ish 100 RPM range, and then we'll let the car run. There's no point of recording a 20-minute, car running just sitting. So I will be back, and I'll at least get that process recorded, and then we'll pause again. All right, I've second guessed myself, so I said I wasn't going to come back under here, but just for the sake of showing the actual pulling of the plug, okay? Again, for our noobs, you want to position your pan as far out because this oil is going to arc, okay? And just so you see, this is actual oil, okay? So it is the oil drain plug. You need to be careful because I've seen people make the mistake of pulling off their dust covers underneath and actually pulling, a plug for their transmission fluid, all right? And manufacturers, one of the reasons why you don't have drain plugs because of that fact. People were pulling, the wrong plug and draining transmission fluid. But staying on target or staying on task, spin this off. I generally go from the back and then just pull it, okay? See? In this particular instant, relatively no muss, no fuss. I got a little bit of oil on my fingers, and that's it, all right? So that's the process of pulling the drain plug, all right? I'm going to pause. I'll put the plug back in when this fluid drains out. I'll go back up top. We'll put the BG cleaner in and get this thing started and idling and let the fluid do its job. And then that's actually, since we're talking about it, that's the other reason for starting the engine. It really needs to be up to operating temperature. Forgive the hand. It needs to be up to operating temperature before you put in the cleaner. So that's just a helpful note. However, if you're going to use this particular product, Mr. Unnamed Helping Hand, where did I put that information sheet? Is it in the box? Perfect. Where I ordered the kit from, it came with the instructions on how to use the kit, all right? And then we will get the cleaner in. Alrighty, forgive the airplane noise overhead, but again, we have an 8.5 quart system, okay? We got 6 quarts of cleaner, okay? So I'm going to dilute that so that we at least have the proper fluid amount. So obviously I've got 5 quarts, I'm just gonna use 5 of this. I'll have, 8.5 of, again, sacrificial oil, just for the fluid's sake, and then 6 quarts of actual cleaner. So again, we're taking half this bottle, and again, for our noobs, okay, your quart bottles or your quart bottles or your gallon bottles, they come with a window. You can actually see, okay? You have a liter side and you have a quart side. Again, 5.5 quarts, we're going about 2.5. It's simple math. But I just wanted to let you know, you need to pay attention to bottles. There's some engineering in even plastic bottles. You have a sight window, use it. That's good. Okay, so we've got 2.5 quarts for our cleaning solution, and then we'll have 2.5 quarts for our rinse. See how much arm strength I have. Can I hold this bottle? Will he do it? Uh-oh, we're going a little bit too fast. A little overzealous. There's design, there's engineering in these bottles, okay? If I were to actually turn this the other way, I wouldn't have gotten that glug, 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 glug. But I am committed now. And wow, I'm going to show you all something. When I tell you that I'm sold on BG products, and I should actually have a before, since I brought the camera over earlier to show you, you know, my visual of what I determined to be sludge. So I should have the top of this valve cover gasket. If I'm not mistaken, it was dirty, okay? All right, there's our bottle of cleaner. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I will go back and confirm if I'm actually correct, but the top of this valve cover was just like that. I happened to just spill some of the BG on this, and it's clean, okay? It broke it down that fast, and that's cold. So, I've got pretty good confidence that, not actually, I should be able to, but it's actually already started to break up some of the sludge that just was going in to begin with, okay? And again, that's cold. So again, I'm very confident as I can be, that we are going to break down sludge. So we've got our product in, we've got the cap back on, we have our sacrificial filter in, which you're going to need 3 of them. 1 for the cleaning solution, 1 for the rinse, and then 1 for the actual oil. So let's get the car started, and I'll at least go through the process of getting it up to, say, about 22 to 2500 RPM, and then I'll end the video, come back to when we're going to drain, put in the rinse. Alrighty, my friends, so we have the engine. I've got it at about 25. I'll go over, okay? I just wanted to at least show you what it sounds like, which isn't very exciting, but we go over to the cabin. And what I've done is I actually had my long pry bar, but apparently I forgot it. So I still have something. You improvise, you work with what you have. So I took the upper portion of my floor jack, okay, and used that as my accelerator stabilizer, if you will, that'll hold my RPM. So you can see I've just positioned it between the seat and the actual accelerator, and then, you know, use the adjuster to get my RPMs. Like I said, I'm about 2500, and and that's where I feel comfortable. Again, the recommendation is 3,000. You follow the recommendation. I'm being a little bit cautious because of the potential engine, or the potential issue that I think I have. I don't want to push it, but you certainly cannot just let this stuff idle. Okay, it needs the heat process, that cycle, to help the detergent, break down sludge and whatever else it can get out of this engine. So that's as much as I'm going to record for this process. We'll come back about 25 minutes later, and then we'll do the rinse process. It's the same deal. So that's it. I will see you all on the rinse process. Okay, we're coming up on about 2 minutes remaining for the initial clean cycle, but I just figured I'd get a little bit of footage that maybe I didn't get to begin with. But as you can see, I have the vehicle up on jack stands, front obviously, and in the rear. Again, this isn't about how to jack up a car. Maybe I'll do something more rudimentary. There's a separate video on some basic how-tos, if you will, but I can't imagine that you can't find a video on how to properly secure a vehicle on jack stands. And of course, you'll have to get the gist of it, because obviously different securing points are going to be different for different cars. But I just wanted to kind of see that. But as we go and shut the vehicle off, okay, obviously we don't want to just shut this vehicle off at this high idle. So we would remove our stabilizing pole, let it go down to idle, shut the vehicle down, and then we would move on to the next process. But we want to at least give the opportunity for that for that cleaning fluid and every other fluid that we're going to drain thereafter. It says change immediately, but immediately in my interpretation means give the fluid an opportunity to work its way down to the oil pan. You'll probably notice, or just in case it makes it into the shot, I want to at least identify. So in my GLK video, or in any video that I'm going to record hereafter, I'm always going to make the note of, don't just get focused on the job you're doing, okay? And especially if you have the opportunity, or you're going to take the opportunity, or a job requires that the car be off the ground and you have to be underneath. This is prime time for you to, just inspect other things. Let's try to identify other things that's wrong. You'd hate to get out on the road and run into a problem only to realize, well, damn, why didn't I notice this when I was doing X, Y, and Z work? Well, it's because you weren't looking for it. Washing your car, or doing general maintenance or repairs, that's not the time to just be focused on the thing at hand. Let's look at other things. So going back to why I'm making this statement, okay, you'll notice that my radiator, my coolant reservoir cap is off. Well, it's off because I just happened to look at this crossover. I just happened to look at this crossover pipe and saw that it's broken, okay? So I didn't want the pressure to build up and blow this, or potentially blow this line off, okay? So you do not have to remove your reservoir cap for this procedure. I just did it as a preventative, safety reason, if you will. And since I just mentioned safety, okay, I had my watch on earlier. You can also see, I'm not logoed up with any sort of, other than my hat. But I'm in work clothes, okay, because we're working outside today. But I don't have any dangling jewelry. As you can see, we're working with, the engine, and it's running at high RPM. So you certainly don't want to get anything, caught in a running engine. So work as safely as you possibly can. I'm not telling you to remove your wedding ring, but you know, remove all of your jewelry and dangling things, and don't wear baggy clothing, you know, such that you would either get hung up on and you know, you're getting snagged down into the engine, or if I had my watch on and, you know, needed to get into a tight space potentially, well, it's just going to prevent me from doing so. And then of course I'm going to probably damage and get my watch dirty. So remove all of your potential hazards, right? Work safely. All right. So we are going to go and shut this car down. Let's go over. Again, let's remove our pole. Okay. Car goes back down to idle. Let me also add, during this process, do not leave your vehicle. Okay. You need to make sure that it's not running hot, or that the idle hasn't changed, because it will fluctuate here, and especially if you're using this procedure. After so long, the accelerator, obviously it's, you know, it's spring loaded, and it can dig into the cushion here, thus releasing the tension, and then the RPMs drop. Okay, so you've got to, you know, kind of make adjustments here and there, but overall, again, you need to monitor your vehicle to make sure that it is running correctly. Okay, and actually let's go back. Okay, so I can still hear. Let's go on this side. I can still hear that noise. And again, it's not a testament to whether the product is working. Okay, the product is meant to break down sludge and varnish. Okay, I am not using this product, just for clarity, I am not using this product in hopes that it's going to correct this potential knocking noise as a prime intent. I'm hoping that as a byproduct of using this product, byproduct is using this product. As a byproduct of using the dynamic cleaner, that it may inadvertently help this issue. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to shut the vehicle down, and then I'm going to wait a couple of minutes, drain, fill with rinse, and then we'll do the same procedure. Okay, start the car. It runs for 25 minutes, or actually, I'm sorry, I'm letting this vehicle run for about 25 to 30 minutes. You follow the procedure and recommendation that BG states. Okay, I need to be a little bit careful with this engine, so that's my thought process. All right, and honestly, I don't think that there's any point of filming what I've already shown you how to do. All righty, let me film just for the sake of filming. Okay, because like I said, I start with my filter in this particular case. So again, and I'm working on my phraseology, so I am being conscious to not continuously say again. When you're about to pull this cap, BG recommends that essentially back-to-back procedures. Once you run the cleaner through, they don't say wait. They say immediately drain the cleaner and then add the rinse. I'm starting with my oil filter. Okay, one, it's hot, so that is very important. Do not just go in here willy-nilly and just remove this cap. Oil could potentially overflow. So you'll hear it as the vacuum is released, if you will. You'll hear the oil start to drain back through. Slowly back this cap off. Okay. After you've gotten it loose enough to where you can turn it by hand freely, just slowly back this cap off. and then slowly lift it out. Okay, so obviously it just came out on its own volition, and that's a pretty good sign actually so far, because that filter is not terribly dirty. So there is some benefit in filming this portion. Let's go ahead and put this below onto our catch pan, and then let's just kind of look at this filter. What are we looking like? Again, from new, and we actually have something to compare it to. Well, of course, it was fairly tannish to begin with, but in comparison, right? It's not horrible, right? It's not black. And if we actually look in between, okay, I may not be capturing it, but I don't necessarily, I mean, I'm going to literally, like, you know, not look through every fin, but we can see that, you know, there's nothing terribly concerning, no chunks or anything of that nature. So we're done with this filter. Go ahead and get that, and then I will bring our cap back up. Okay. And doesn't matter which end you start with. So here, let's do this. Let's put you all back in the tripod. There we go. Okay, you all are back in the tripod. I have both my hands free. We will put on our second sacrificial filter for the rinse. I'll go down hand tight. It's still hot as the dickens. And then I'll just put just a little bit of torque on it. There we go. Just a little bit. We don't want to go fighting with this thing. So again, you know, I apologize for the again. We've identified yet another thing to add to this project, along with the tie rods, inner, outer, control arms, everything we need to do to, you know, we're not going to go rack and pinion, maybe the sway bar links. So suspension up front. We need a new coolant reservoir. The last thing we'll do is degrease this thing and spray it down top, bottom, so that we can identify, which I'm just going to assume that, you know, we're going to need valve cover gasket. Valve cover gasket's done on this, but before, while the engine was still cold, again, just out of curiosity, you know, I just kind of rub that finger area, or rub this area with my finger where that cleaner had, you know, kind of spilled over. And I mean, that this sludge, it just almost liquefied. So let's just see if we have any sort of change inside. Not that we really should, based on what we can see, but if I were to, here, let's just take one of these. Because I can't get that right there. Damn. A little bit of sludge that I can see on top of where you fill your oil. I mean, it is just I wouldn't say liquefying, but I mean, it's just breaking apart very easy. So again, keep doing that. The purpose of the engine cleaner, again, it's to break down sludge, varnish, so forth and so on. Okay, so I am going on my experience and my confidence in what the product has done for me for what I have used. BG44K, that's fuel system treatment, injector cleaners, or intake manifold jobs. So I can't get it into the engine to actually say, I'm just going not necessarily on blind faith, but my experience. So, and I'm just going on, you know, what I can see that it's doing from the little bit that I spilled on top, and then what I can actually move around, and it's just coming right up. So I'm pausing. We'll put the rinse fluid in, and then we'll do the second procedure. Alrighty, so we've got the drain plug back in. Again, it's just, you know, basically that first cinch on a ratchet. We're not tightening it down for torque. We just don't want any leaks. So we will put the remainder of our oil. I cannot stress enough so that I don't get bombarded. You're not using it correctly. I went in with the notion that I was not going to use it per BG's specifications. And I am not spending an additional $300 on another kit so that I have the right fluid amount, when one, I know that the owner has told me whatever we do, we're going to run this car regardless. Okay, so that extra $344 that I would spend on another kit is the equivalent of the suspension products that I need, tie rods, control arms, so forth. That's about $350. So we've got the remainder of our oil so that we have the correct amount of fluid, and then we have our rinse oil. I don't think I need to explain what that is. It's just that. It's going to rinse out the remainder of the cleaner, and then as well as whatever residual crap and crud that it broke down. And in fact, I'm going to do you one better here. Let's create ourselves a little vent. Bam. What I do? I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but I am a tool. That was a joke. Hopefully we can record, or we'll have to have that on. You can see how clear it is. So let's use this as an indicator of what comes out. Goes in clear. Obviously it's going to be dark. Maybe I should have recorded. I just didn't think I was really going to capture the essence underneath. Okay, there we go, spilling again. No big issue. In as much as my off-camera assistant was asking, well, man, it's black. Yeah, it's black, but not to the extent that we still couldn't see some level of ambient light through that fluid. So we'll use that same sort of mentality or gauge. And okay, how much can we see through the rinse? Maybe I'll try to record it, maybe not. I think you should at least understand the thought process. Let's wipe up. Some of the excess that spilled, put our cap back on. Again, I am not going to go through the process of recording, starting the car. It's the same procedure that we started with. Do the same thing. Pause. Actually, so I'm going to end the recording for this process, the rinse process, is the same as the cleansing process. Get your correct fluid amount in that your car calls for. Start your engine, go the specifications, and then drain that, and then you put your actual oil in. I am going to end the recording for this process, get the rinse procedure done, then I have to go run an errand. So when I come back with the oil, it'll be probably several hours later from now. So I will see you all shortly. Alrighty, we are coming up on about 3 minutes or so remaining. Well, not or so. About 3 minutes remaining on the rinse cycle process. To reiterate, do not leave your vehicle. Stay with the vehicle. Make sure that your RPMs are maintained. Make sure that the engine isn't running hot. You're not seeing any, catastrophic smoke or otherwise. Do not leave your vehicle. Play a game, have a chair, just post up with your vehicle. Okay. We'll shut the vehicle down. I will make the attempt to see if I can capture the fluid coming out, and using that example of how much ambient light can we see through it. Not that really means anything. I guess it does mean something. Again, if it's coming out relatively clean and where we can actually see through it, then that should be at least a telltale sign that we could have a reasonable belief that the cleaner did its job, the rinse did its job, and as a result, it broke down in the first cycle and then cleaned in the second cycle, such that we don't continue, or we don't have a continuous flow of just dirty, nasty looking type of fluid. Okay. So let's just go ahead and get to that process now. I'll go around. Again, we've got a lot of projects to do on this vehicle. If this turns out, that we can quiet this engine down with that ticking, then again, we'll move on to the suspension portion. And if that goes well, at that point, we should at least be able to, run around the neighborhood. But the tires are dry rotted. Don't necessarily care for the wheels. They're, corroded and contaminated with brake dust. We could probably source some newer type wheels from salvage. Obviously, the car needs to be thoroughly cleaned. On the inside, we have to replace the headlight switch. We have to but go in and fish the headlight switch from however it fell out of there to begin with. I'm not sure if someone was messing around with it. We have to do the same for the ignition. We've got to go and secure that. There's the locking ring right there. And again, we've got to, thoroughly clean this thing out. It's been sitting for 18, 19 months. It's, mold and, the car should clean up very, very well. You can already see where, I'm sorry, I've gotten a little bit sidetracked, but you can see it's dirt. This car is going to clean up relatively nicely. But, we've got to make sure that we can at least get it rolling first. So, and we just barely made it too, because that's one thing I didn't realize. I didn't realize that we were low on fuel, but we'll make it. So let's go back to idle. I can still hear that little bit of that tick, or for lack of a better phraseology, that knock, but it is considerably more quiet. So again, you have your accessories noise. But if I come back over here, is it still there? Yes, it is. But it is already. Okay, now it seems a little bit more pronounced. But I think it's not as pronounced as it was when I was able to actually let you guys hear. All right, so that's the rinse. When we put the actual oil, and the oil has an additive that's going with it, an oil conditioner, BG's oil conditioner. We'll see how much this helps. So let's get this car shut off, because I do have to get that air in. Okay, all right, we're shut down. Let's bring our creeper back over, get it set up. And in this instant, I'm going to just go ahead and pull the plug, because after I pull this plug, I am going to do a quick cleanup, go take care of my errand, and so it doesn't matter about the engine or waiting for the fluid to actually drain. Again, do not do as I do. You be very careful. This oil is very hot. So you see me with no gloves on. However, forgive my one-hand camera prowess, or lack thereof. I've got some puddled water here that I'm fighting with too. But let's just come back underneath. Okay, we'll get a cloth, get this plug out far enough to where now I can just spin it, and then let the fluid push it out. Here we go. There we go. Now, that's clean. Well, it's obviously it's not clean, but the point is we can actually see through it. Okay. We could debate, discuss, conference, however you want to define it. What does this actually mean? For me, at a high level, it means that it's the potential sludge or varnish that may or may not have been in this engine. This is a telltale sign that the cleaner has done its job and the rinse is doing its job. Okay. And so as far as I'm concerned, the point of me, the actual point, let me not say the actual point. I don't know this vehicle. That's kind of the point. And for what the owner wants to do with this car, I wouldn't do any less for him or anyone that I wouldn't do for myself. Okay. So since I don't know this car, this vehicle has been sitting again for 18 months. The car was not drained of any fluid. So like I said, we're certainly not hurting anything. Okay. Rinse oil is pretty clean. Again, I can't get a bore scope, or I'm certainly not going to pull valve cover gaskets to see, and it wouldn't mean anything anyways if we didn't know what the base level was. So we didn't start with pulling the valve cover gaskets to see, what sort of sludge may or may not have been built up. I just went on, essentially the oil cap where we actually put oil in, right? And for that reason, I say, you know what, let's at least just go ahead and run a cleanser through here. All right. So we'll let this just stay off. I'll come back up top. Let's go ahead and pull off our filler cap. And it's so I mean the fluid isn't going to, you know, reach its way up here, if that means anything. But for what it did, where it did reach up here, again, it did break this stuff down a little bit, such that we just ran a little wipe in here. Okay. Again, I'm not sure if that really captures anything, but it is coming off, I mean, very, very easily. I'm not going to go in there and actually clean it out. We'll let, you know, oil change processes kind of work its way. So now we are ready for the actual oil fill procedure. And I have to, that's part of the errand that I have to run. I have to go get the oil, but then I've got some other stuff to do. So it's good that I didn't have the amount of fuel that I did not know that I didn't even have, if that makes any sense, because we're going to run fuel system cleaner, BG44 fuel system cleaner. That was actually my introduction to BG as a company, period. Like I said, it's about 10-15 years ago, maybe not that long, but it was when I got back on motorcycles. I bought a well, let me not go into that. This stuff works. And then so that'll go into the fuel system. Their oil supplement, or their oil conditioner, obviously that will go into the crankcase. So that will help kind of reduce friction with the oil that we're putting in. So that will be essentially kind of the end of the video. But I will record, you know, me pouring oil in. Not that that's exciting. So that pretty much sums up a BG engine cleansing process. Again, not necessarily about an oil change. I'm not sure how I will go about titling this, because again, I want as many people to you know, to view it. But it's kind of a dual job. If it's two jobs into one, it's a cleansing and an oil change, but I'll figure that out. So I think that pretty much beats this dead horse. We will get the engine oil in with the supplement, and then we'll start the car and see how it does. Or by that time the car will have been like cold at that point. But we'll just let it come up to operating temperature and see what we can hear on that ticking, or quote unquote, you know, possible knocking sound. Alrighty, I'll see. It'll be a few hours for me, but it'll, you know, pretty much be instant for you all. Okay, so a few hours later, an errand, trip to the parts store to get our fill oil later, and here we are back. So I mean, there's really not much else to discuss, so to speak. I think we've gotten the gist that, and again, it just depends on how I title this. But it's not necessarily about an oil change, more so than it is about a process of making the attempt to eliminate sludge. Okay, so as we start to kind of wrap up or cap this particular video, again, in an attempt to answer questions that may come my way, i.e., will this work on X, Y, Z make, model, and car? That's not the question to ask. The question you want to ask yourself is, one, do I reasonably believe that I may have some sludge built up in my engine? And if you are, well, I guess that determination could really be another video. But if you understand the thought process that I'm getting at, it's not about the car. It's about the concern of sludge. Okay, and so that particular product, the it's actually got a specific name, and I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But that that BG engine cleanser, and then the rinse. That's really what I consider to be I don't want to call it an extreme process, but there's kind of another process that I go through, and that'll be hinted towards in, not necessarily hinted towards. I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing when because I have another video again on this same car's owner. He has a 16 S550, and like I said, we did considerable work on that. And so the process of what I do with an oil change, a general oil change, is mentioned there, where I kind of use Marvel's Mystery Oil as the lesser. It's not as involved as this particular process is, where we're cleaning, then we've got to drain, then rinse, then drain, then fill. The standard oil change I do, here it is, I'm going through it anyways, is I just go ahead and add a bottle of Marvel's Mystery Oil to the forgive, it's a very nice day here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're kind of in our swing of weather, where we're 80 degrees one day, which we're about 76 right now, about 3 o'clock or 3:30 in the afternoon in March, and then tomorrow it could be 40 degrees. So we're just kind of at that time of year where spring is kind of about to sprung itself. And everybody's out on their bikes. So in any respect, all right, so I'm going to go below, all right, because I left with the drain plug out. So you don't forget your drain plug, and chances are you've gone through and didn't leave your vehicle. So when you do your last rinse process, put your drain plug back in. Now, what I will admit is I did not purchase a replacement crush washer for that bolt. So I'm not going to stress so much about it, because again, we've got so much we have so many more projects to do with this vehicle, that it's not really that big of a deal to me. We'll get the crush washer replaced on the next oil change, some 8,000 miles from now. So I'm going to go underneath. All right, I'll put the drain plug back in. If I'm not mistaken, I think the torque the torque specifications is somewhere about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 Newton meters. But if you don't have a torque wrench, or you're not familiar with how to use a torque wrench, once you get your bolt thing, or however, once it seats itself, then another quarter turn will be fine. All right. Actually, hopefully you can hear me. I'm coming back up top, because again, the intent is to teach. And where it may seem nuanced to some, and why are you being that detailed? Are you trying to, show what you know? No. I am just trying to explain again to those who don't know what we're talking about when we say certain things. What's the point of saying I'm trying to teach if I don't make the effort? Okay. So what do I mean by a crush washer? Okay. Here's your bolt. Okay. And although it has, an extended or a protruding head, that sits outside the bolt head, this very well could go, and as we put the bolt back in and it hits the oil pan or seats itself on the oil pan, who's to say that that there's not enough surface area to seal the gap between the pan or the hole that's in the pan and this bolt? Well, chances are it's not. They They didn't ask for a washer for no reason, okay? And so here's a washer, right? And so this would go down onto that. What's a crush washer? Well, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this. But if you can make out that this washer is not completely flat, okay? It begins its life flat, but the material that this is made from is designed to deform, right? Crush, if you will. So as this goes down over this, it starts off flat. Once it meets the surface area of the oil pan, okay, and in between the surface area of this, let's call it, of this makeshift washer, if you will, as you torque down on the bolt, come on, go down, go down, go down, go down, there you go. As you torque down on the bolt, this washer begins to crush and deform to the mating surface of the oil pan, thus creating the seal, okay? So again, I'm not going to worry myself that I don't have a replacement crush washer. The chances of this leaking are very slim, but it doesn't matter. I'll get it on the next go round. So that's what a crush washer is. Okay. However, you don't want to just go and keep, reusing these things. They will eventually give their life. All right. So every opportunity you have, sometimes, well, I'll come back up. Okay, I'm back. What I was going to say is, in the same manner that sometimes your filters will come with replacement O-rings, sometimes you'll have in your filter a crush washer, okay? But if you don't, if you can find your particular crush washer, if your vehicle calls for a crush washer, if you can find your particular crush washer, just buy a few, buy 10 or so. And then you'll already have them on hand, okay? So we have the drain plug back in. I've already loosened the oil filter cap, so I should be able to just spin this off by hand. And, okay, so, good things. For illustration purposes, for teaching purposes. Let me pull out my drain pan. And let me go grab a flathead. Okay. No reason for me to show my face in the frame. It's not about me, it's about the work. Oil. But let's get this filter off. And again, please wear gloves. Please wear gloves when you're working with fluid. Okay. And so again, even in our rinse, that filter's looking pretty doggone good. But the last frame where I left off was that rinse fluid was draining pretty clear to begin with. But here's what I want to show you, the importance of your O-rings, and not taking the fact that you have these things in here for granted. Okay, so I shouldn't have to tell you whether you know anything about vehicles or not. There. Let me come around just to make sure. Okay, let me see if I can capture this. Okay, there's your O-ring there, okay? This thing should not, we shouldn't be able to move it like that, okay? So it's thoroughly given up its life, all right? The other issue and reason why you don't just want to assume, oh, well, you know, it's on there, so I'll just keep using this. Rubber can take on the consistency or characteristics of plastic, or what we might refer to as plasticizing. It's not that the rubber has turned to plastic. What we're referring to is that it's just kind of taking on a hard, like, I don't want to say consistency, but for lack of a better term right now, it's taken on, you know, that characteristic of plastic and not rubber. So if it's plasticized, it is no longer doing the job of what rubber is meant to do, which is to seal. Okay. And so whereas this has, or I'm sorry. And so in this case, where you've got something that's round, if we never took this off of that oil filter housing, this can eventually go flat. All right. And where it was round to begin with, if it goes flat, then there's the opportunity and chance for fluid to seep by. Okay. There was fluid or oil leaking. I mean, it was just covered. I don't want to say covering, but it was noticeable on the front of this oil filter housing, or where, yeah, the housing on this portion right in the front. I sprayed it off kind of with the assumption that it was more than likely getting past this O-ring, and lo and behold, my assumption was absolutely dead on, because again, when I put the new one on, you'll see that there will be no movement in this thing at all. So I'm even wondering if this was the correct O-ring to begin with, but it doesn't matter. We're going to replace it. Just wanted to go through my litany. All right, so let's get this bugger off. Okay, you're out of here. We have an O-ring here, and this one is actually, I can actually see the cracks. I will be surprised if this actually doesn't just break while I'm trying to take it off. It didn't, but there are definite cracks in this particular one. Okay, you're out of here. Then we have a pick would work better. I left my picks. I'm doing kind of traveling, quote unquote, mechanic work. I'm not in my garage. As you saw, we're out in the elements today. And then we have this smaller one here up top. Come on, buddy. All right, and you come off. All right, so we had a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, and they kind of step down. So you have a plethora of O-rings in here. I'm going to, there's no difference. This one came with a brownish bronze sort of O-ring kit. They're just different colors. Okay, so I'm just going to go with the black for no particular reason. All right, actually, my fingers are already kind of greased up to begin with, so we just need a light little coat. We'll go with the larger one first. This is kind of a no-brainer on the large one. Okay, now we bring over the replacement O-ring, and no movement at all. Okay. All right, so I've proven that point. Okay, now these O-rings, they kind of step down, and obviously you should be able to see the same thing if you're working on this type of oil filter cap. Okay, you have the larger one, then you have a slightly less larger one, then it stepped down to a slightly smaller, and then slightly smaller. All you have to do is just match them up if you're thoroughly confused. Or, I don't want to say thoroughly confused, you can just match them up. Now, what the heck did I just do with my dang on O-rings? Oh, good Lord, they're in the pack. I'm looking right at the pack. All right, let's just go. work carefully. Don't drop them. You don't want them all over the place, and you certainly don't want them on a dirty engine. So I'll match that there, match that there. I'll go with this one. Give a slight little rub, just lubricate it, and then we put you on next. You can just roll these down, roll it down, and that one's seated. Then we'll go to the next one. Just see, just giving it a little rub. My fingers are already oily. And then we just roll this one down. And then we go to the smaller one and lubricate. Bam. Okay, O-rings are replaced. New filters going in, and all you just do is you just push down on this thing, make sure it's seated. Doesn't take a whole lot of force. Okay, and our oil filter is going back on. You will see on the top of the cap that it is recommending 23 Newton meters for the torque spec. I do not have my torque ratchet, but I also don't have the proper cap that would allow me to torque this to 23 Newton meters anyway. So, oh, again, I'm looking right at it. I'll go with a little bit of brake cleaner just to get that residual oil that I just put all over it. Let me go grab some shop towels. Alright, I've got my shop towels, but brake fluid is your best friend. It evaporates very quickly, but it cleans like the dickens, and especially with oily type surfaces. I'll even show you just how good it works. But I need the cap oil free so that what I do have will actually grip. Okay. Spin that around. It's seated. I'll give it a little bit more. And let me go where I can actually get some good grip on it. Okay. And boom. I'm fine with that. Clean as we go. Get our old O-rings out of the way. Blammo, blammo. And hey, for the next go around, we've got some spare O-rings. And then you never know. You could be working on a different type of job, and you know, find, oh wow, that's the exact size O-ring that I need, and I didn't know that I was going to have to replace, but I've got something. So, and we also have an O-ring on our dipstick, okay, right there. And this one, I'm not sure, but let's see here. Let's see, can that be captured? Is this a good representation of this O-ring flattening out? Okay, it's not that big a concern on the dipstick tube because, you know, oil's not going to come up through the dipstick tube and shoot its way out. But if this is showing, let's go that way actually. Does that show? I think that's probably a good visual of that O-ring flattening out. Okay, so where it's not that big a deal in this particular scenario. It would be a big deal on that. It would be a big deal on a sensor. It would be a big deal if it's, something underneath where, again, oil can get, well, it doesn't really matter where it is, but if oil has the opportunity, or fluid for that matter, has the opportunity to seep by because it's no longer round or sealing, that's the point I'm making. Okay. Let's wipe our hands. And then I will just take you out of the tripod momentarily. Show you the wonders of brake cleaner. Okay. We all saw that area was completely filthy. It looked just like that. All right. I just sprayed it down a little bit with brake fluid cleaner. Okay. And if it'll hold its angle. I'm running out. Hopefully you can see. There we go. It just comes right off. So I'm practically out of brake fluid. Or brake fluid cleaner, brake clean. So again, not that big of a deal. So you guys go back in your home. Go back to your tripod home. Let's get oil in this car. Alrighty, so first we go in with the supplied oil additive, okay, or oil conditioner. We need a flathead because these tops are pretty, you can't just fingernail them up. I've tried. You don't want to do that, trust me. So, just pop this. In this particular application, I can forego the funnel. Additive goes in first. Okay. Additive in. You go away. Now I will break out my funnel. And I think in the same manner, I'm going to give myself a little vent hole. Let's see if I can do it up top. Just a quick little punch. We need 8.5 quarts. We've got 5-quart bottles. You do the math. It's not that difficult. First bottle, no concern. 5 quarts. 5 W220, Mobile 1. Spec for Mercedes-Benz. Alrighty, that's 5 quarts down. No glug from the bottle. That's why we create our little vent. Alrighty, 5 quarts down. And you're out of it. Next bottle, same drill. Punch my little vent hole. Vent hole's created. And then we will come in and quarts liters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. 1, 2, 3. I need to be at that line. Which is why we pour the additive in first. I mean, it's not a lot, as you can see in the can, but we want to make sure that that additive is in, because obviously that's going to contribute to the amount of oil that we're adding. But the other reason is he gives it a good opportunity to, at least do a sort of a pre-mix. So that goes in first. The 5 quarts go in after that, and effectively would kind of munch it, or not munch it around, move it around some, but it's not that big a deal when you start the car. So 1, 2, I'm not quite there at 8. I'm starting with 8 quarts. Just a wee bit more, and that's 8. Okay. So I do not have, obviously, the ability to drive this vehicle, but as I showed you all, the vehicle is on jack stands, and I have it, as level as I possibly can get it, from eyeball. So we'll start the vehicle. It may take, a drive cycle or two for us to actually get the oil, one, up to driving operating temperature, right? Then for that additive to thoroughly mix itself in, and then actually, kind of soak its way into the metal and do what it's supposed to do. So invariably, we should probably still hear that sound, but I'm just going to let the engine run at idle. Maybe for this go around, I'll give it 10 minutes. And then I'll shut it down. I'll let it sit for 5. And then I'll start it again, and I'll just see if there's some noticeable changes in that concerning ticking noise. All right. So let's, and then of course, during that 5 minutes, the oil will have settled. It would have worked its way through the oil filter housing, and then we'll check the levels again, and then top off as we need to. But I put in 8. There was, what is this? This is about 11. This is 11 fluid ounces. So we're a little bit over 8 quarts of fluid in there. We shouldn't have to add much oil to top off. All right. Let's get our funnel out of here. Wipe. But I can tell you, I am very anxious to move on in the projects that this vehicle needs, because I am so excited, or very excited, to see this car, 1, get back on the road, but then 2, I'm just anxious to see this car, as cleaned as we can possibly get it. And that's part of why we call ourselves, well, at least why I call myself a hobbyist. Yeah, I may save a buck, turn in my own wrenches, and I have done so for many years. It's been a long time since I have relied on a service technician or a mechanic of sorts to do anything for me. And I'm thankful for that I have this kind of natural ability and interest. But that's really the byproduct. I do this because it's fun for me. I'm going to leave this this reservoir cap off too. Once we get up to temperature, then I'll put it back on and see if this line blows off, which I'm kind of assuming that it will. But yeah, that's the reason I call myself a hobbyist, and I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anyone else. This is a very new channel. I don't have any affiliations with other people. Obviously, I don't have any sort of sponsorship. I just started. Why would I? It's something that's fun for me. It's relaxing for me. It's somewhat therapeutic. Even when I run into problems and I'm cussing and busting knuckles and cutting up my hands and so forth and so on, I know at some point I'm going to figure it out. Why? Because I have to in many cases. I'm generally working on my own vehicles, right? And so it's just that, level of care and sense of accomplishment that, again, without insulting our technicians, our service professionals, I'm not nowhere close to being trained, you know, and the fact that I can figure stuff out, it's thoroughly amazing to me. So I'm not, you know, tooting or bragging or anything. I'm just stating why I'm a hobbyist. Okay, so enough of that blah 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 crap. Alrighty, reservoir cap is off, oil's in the car. Let's start it up. Nope, that's my key. Let's start it up without the key. Okay, keys in the vehicle. Yeah, I have to go on a fishing expedition, as I showed you earlier. The ignition module, it's not secure, so it just fell out of accessibility. So I'm going to pause, fish that thing out, and get this car started. All right, we got the ignition module fished out. As you can see, the car started. So I'm not going to just let the camera run, but I just wanted to, you know, let you see car started. And for this go around, I'll just let it sit here at idle for about 10 minutes, and then I'll shut it down, let the fluid, you know, drain back down to the pan, check the fluid, top off, and then I'll start it again and let it run maybe for another 10 minutes. And like I said, I am not expecting that I'm going to immediately hear that noise either dissipate, go away, quiet down, or anything. We really need to drive this car and let that additive work its way, you know, one, into the oil, and then into the metal, you know, and all the passages and valleys and nooks and crannies. So we won't truly know what's going on with the additive or this noise until we can actually drive this vehicle, and it's going to be some time before we can test drive this vehicle. The fact of the matter is, like I said, obviously the well, you know what, let's do this real quick. I'm going to shut it off and then turn it back on, and you'll see this engine starts with no hesitation at all. No issues at all, right? So we're going to drive this vehicle one way or the other. Again, the owner says, hey, when it dies, it dies. If it dies here in the driveway, then, you know, we'll get it towed out and then we'll find another car. But until that happens, it's going back on the road come hell or high water. So the next thing we have to do is, you know, we've got, you know, we got to do brand new tires. These are obviously dry rotted. We may even have to, you know, look into, obviously you can see we shouldn't be able to do that. But, you know, when the curbing issue happened, it bent this wheel. So as far as I'm concerned, that wheel's no good. But I mean, hell, there's tons of these cars out here. 55 AMGs, 500s, you know, with better looking wheels. I'm sure we could probably source some wheels for, you know, $200 to $500. So we can kind of maybe change the look up of the car. But again, that's up to him. But we definitely have to get new tires. We need rotors and pads. And I'm just focusing on the front wheel just because that's what I'm talking about. We have, you know, all of those suspension components or driving components, steering components, if you will. Tie rods, control arms that we have to replace. You know, again, this car has been sitting for more than 18 months. We got to get this thing cleaned up. It's going back on the road one way or the other. But for the purpose of what I was referring to as far as a test drive, we can't do that. So I will pause here, and I'll just I'll show you the top off at least. Again, we're not doing anything, you know, terribly exciting. I just felt the need to make this video. All right, I'm pausing. Okay, so I don't know why I did not think to come underneath the car, but we could have a suspension of at least maybe a potential rod bearing that has lost its effectiveness, maybe have become unseated. But whereas I was looking up top, I don't know why, but it just dawned on me, hey, go back underneath the vehicle with the vehicle running. Underneath. Okay. Underneath the vehicle, the sound is more pronounced. I'll shut up. I'm coming back out. Now, in my common sense mind, and what I'm using, reasonable. I'm not sure if I'm in the frame or not. It really doesn't matter. But in my reasonable mind, okay, what immediately comes to mind is, okay, well, if the noise is really more pronounced underneath, then what could that possibly be, or what could that possibly mean in the initial thought process of the art of deduction? Okay, well, what's the initial makeup of an engine block? You have your crank. All right, it goes into the block, then bushings, or oh good lord, bearings, are put in journals. Then your connecting rods go down, they're capped with another bushing, okay, bearing rather. Of course, then the piston itself consists of a head, a rod, and a cap. That's what I'm getting at. That connects itself to the crankshaft. All right, that's called your bottom end. Okay. In my reasonably thinking mind, what immediately comes to me, the only reason we're having noise down there is possibly because one of those connecting rods, the bearing on each side on one particular cylinder, has had to have come undone. Okay, which means now there's play between the rod and the crankshaft. And as it's going through its revolution, there's enough slack in there to create that noise. That's what immediately comes to mind. This car could very well just have a thrown connecting rod bearing. That's what I'm immediately thinking. Now, we don't necessarily know that. We'd have to pull apart the bottom end, oil pan, so forth and so on, to expose the bottom end of the engine block or the crankcase. It doesn't matter. Per the owner, it's going back on the road. If it blows up, it blows up. He's fine with it. All right, so that's that. Sorry about my trouble finding the right words, but they eventually come out, and hopefully I at least have conveyed my follow-up message. I'm going back on pause. Okay, so car's been sitting for about 5 minutes. Oil's had an opportunity to at least drain as much as possible back down to the pan. So you have a minimum and I'm not sure if I can capture this, but it says max. Now, what I've never really been clear on is whether they mean max is there, okay, or if max is here. I don't go to the max, but I always go to the bottom of where max is spelled out on this shaft part. So I'm already there. I am fine with that. That's where I'm going to leave it. So there was no need to top the oil off. If someone knows better than I do, but what? That little bit of oil, and again, this is the max. Even if it is this line, what they're saying is this is the maximum amount of oil that you need. So with where we are, I don't need the maximum amount of oil. So I always go to the bottom. That's it. That's it. So with that, give me a second here. With that, I've cleaned up a little bit, at least on the ground, but I am going to say that unfortunately, and taking an educated guess, I believe the engine has a spun, or at best a bearing that is not doing its job anymore. And so with that said, I'll let the owner know. He's at a track meet with his son. Whether I wait here a few minutes or not, the fact of the matter is we'll have a discussion on what we want to do next, if we want to proceed. Again, as far as I'm concerned, and no, he wants to drive it into the ground. If it lasts to get his son through his senior year in high school, then that's what it'll do. If not, then if it blows up, then we'll just we'll find another vehicle. So I'll call it quits for this. I do have, and I say I'm referencing a GLK. There are 2 videos that I'm currently working on editing. This one should come after the other 2. And so again, it's good to be back in front of the camera, but not for the sake of being in front of the camera. It's just good to be who likes dealing with car issues, right? But especially when it's not your money, it's not that big a deal. But I've got work to do on my truck, which again, the Range Rover's gone, so that's my workhorse now, the QX56. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to need catalytic converters on that thing, and a piece of the subframe, if I'm not mistaken, has to be lowered a bit, as well as a piece of the subframe to be able to get the exhaust out. But that's some diagnosing that I need to do. I'm kind of hoping that maybe I can just get away with O2 sensors, pre-cat O2 sensors, but that's for another day. I don't know. I think that's really about it. But again, I'm still trying to find the presence, find a little bit of comedy and not being so serious, trying to find the right words. And that's where having someone to work the phone until I can find a better, neither here, I'm not talking about camera equipment, but again, I am trying to improve. And so if I am going to make a plug, I would ask for your help, not from the perspective of like, subscribe, share, just whatever, even if you're supposed to say that as a YouTuber, but I'm asking for the help to grow the channel from building a community and a group of us who just want to learn. And again, as I explained, and take it as a hobby, right? We're looking at this as a hobby, but the intent is to encourage others who just don't have the confidence, right? Man, I'm interested, but I can't do that. Sure you can. Sure you can. And hopefully this will be a platform that might give you that nudge. Okay. So yeah, from that perspective, please, like, subscribe, share. Again, if you understand the thought process in some instances, or maybe in many instances, you can possibly use these videos, even if you don't have the same car. A coolant system is a coolant system. A fuel evaporative system is a fuel evaporative system. Changing a spark plug is changing a spark plug. Okay. Obviously, you may have different nooks and crannies and potential different challenges on the area and space you have to work in, but the thought process it's still the same. Okay. So you don't necessarily have to have a specific vehicle that I'm working on at the time. You may just have the same issue or the same desire in general maintenance. I mean, not the desire, but the same general maintenance. I'm changing my oil. I need to change spark plugs. I need to change air filters. Okay, well, if he changes minor situation, well, it's right there. So you understand what I'm saying. The videos don't have to be specific to a vehicle, right? So if you feel like somebody that would benefit, then yeah, please share it. Like, or thumbs down. I'm fine with that. All I'm asking is, as it relates to comments, if you're going to comment, don't just comment for the sake of, or not necessarily comment. If you're going to make corrections, okay, because I don't claim to be perfect, and I do recognize that sometimes I have an issue with finding the right words or using the correct terminology, even though I know it. That's a whole other issue. But if you're going to comment, make it suggestive, make it positive, move us forward. Okay. About the only thing that I will delete is just absolute buffoonery. Okay. Other than that, if you don't like it, that's fine. I've got a thick backbone. So let's wrap this up, and thanks. We'll see you on the next project.